Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the module leader for TECH2503, and this is the video overview summary for the 22nd lecture. Only got a couple more to go. I mean, we can count them, both hands, one hand. What is it? Okay. This week we're going to be looking at the idea of social action issues, and what I want to work through is, kind of some of the, we've covered a lot to do with community development and why the idea of community development is relevant to community media, because community media is a community development practice, and it should be thought of that primarily before it's thought of as a media occupation. It's the idea of what we become in the process of producing media content, rather than the importance of the text and the content themselves. We're turning it around the other way. We're reversing the roles, if you like. So what I want to talk about in this is kind of what the kind of parameters of some of the discussions about sustainability and the role of community development and the role that community media can play in sustainable community development. So we'll look at the idea of kind of ecological discussions and what the limitations are of some of the ecological discussions. So there's a kind of a danger that we need to always ask questions about what we're engaging in, and is there a danger that if we adopt an eco model of sustainability, that we become, if you like, what's called eco-fascists, that we only ever see things in terms of the ecological consequences. And we need to be careful about kind of any program of activity being, if you like, shifting away from pragmatic practice to something which becomes ideologically driven, which is driven purely in order to satisfy the needs of your ideas and not the practical experience and the impact that it has on people in the real world, if you like. And there's also a debate, this comes from the Jim Ive book, where we think about, we talked about managerialism a few weeks ago, and the idea that, there's a kind of prescriptive scientific rationalist process. And we really should be very careful before we undermine the rational process and the thinking process. But at the same time, nor should we put our entire faith in rationalism and scientific management of people, because people aren't rats in a lab, or bacteria in a petri dish to be kind of poked around and used. But people have expectations about social justice, social engagement. We look to issues about, we talked about this briefly the other week, where we talked about growth and what the dominant model of growth is. And we can think about this in terms of, that's great if you've got a centralized process of model of understanding the economy, but people, working in a centralized, organized, what Michael Oakeshott calls the difference between societas and a universitas. So a societas is the kind of society that just kind of emerges and kind of people get along together, and it's kind of ad hoc, and but a universitas is something where you've kind of got a 5-year plan. And what you end up with is a kind of an imposition of the rules of the plan above social experience. And I suppose there's a kind of a tension between, and a contradiction. So this is a kind of competing set of agendas of how to get things done, and how do we just let things evolve and take their course, or do we impose some kind of control and order and discipline onto a what would otherwise be a chaotic situation. So where does change come from? Is it diverse and organic, or is it centralized, organized and regulated? And this had big questions for how we think about managing the future challenges that are coming down the line in terms of re-employment through artificial intelligence, through kind of robots that are going to be coming into the workplace and taking away skilled and manual jobs. And there's a kind of, if you like, a strong need to deal with a high level of uncertainty that's emerging in our Western capitalized neoliberalist societies. And I suppose we kind of got to ask the question, well, that might be great in theory, but how does this work in practice? We've got to be good pragmatists with this. We've got to ask the question, what's the difference that makes the difference? And why do we stick to things which don't make any difference? And what are the differences that we're looking for to identify that we can change and that we can bring about some kind of social development? Do we want, what's the strategy then that we need to pursue in order to ensure that we have a sustainable future? What's the kind of integrated vision that we're looking for? How do we embrace a sense of diversity through community? How do we embrace a sense of empowerment? How do we reconstruct an idea of what community is that is built in on a human scale and not on some kind of abstract kind of systems model kind of scale, which is, we retain a sense of identity and belonging despite the globalized nature of our information systems and the kind of financial systems that rule our lives. Fundamentally, we are part of a culture and we have responsibilities to each other in our culture. So I suppose there's a series of questions that we want to look to, which kind of, we want to be posing problems. It's great to be a problem solver. We are problem solvers, and as a high lot of credit goes into being a problem solver. But actually, there's a step forward that we need to make, which is to be problem posers. And when we're in the frame of mind and asking the questions that we don't know that we need to answer yet, because the circumstances haven't emerged yet, can we ask the right kind of questions about these? Can we use our critical thinking skills in order to be able to engage with those problems which we're not sure will emerge or have emerged at any one time? So this is kind of a broad overview. It kind of brings together a lot of our thinking through the shape of the module, and kind of that idea of community development as being integral to community media, and something which is kind of, we are activists and we are participants, but we're not passive. We have something to offer and something to say and a social role in this process. And how do we encourage more people to engage in that process? Right, the notes are available up on the DMU Commons wiki. Just go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk and look for the TECH2503 section. Likewise, if you want to carry on the conversation, it's possible too by logging in at DMU Talk, which is talk.our.dmu.ac.uk, and just pick one of the topics to reply to or add a new topic. I'm sure you can share some of your experience and insights with and encourage some debate on the site, which would be great. Okay, see you at the lecture.